Chapter 1. Explosions rocked the station under my feet. I was stunned, disbelieving. The Defense Council and their secret fleets of Shadow-class warships had somehow found us on the far side of the galaxy. I'd never have thought it possible, if not for the walls and floors shaking, proof that the royal palace of the Allied Federation of the Gran was under attack. Caesar had come for me. Amazingly, the DC followed, and now everyone I loved was at risk. Prince Rollick, my newlywed mate, a 3-meter-tall caramel-black-striped cat, pulled me ever faster down the corridors, racing towards the launch bays. My human lover, the pirate, Caesar, raced at my side. How I'd managed to love and please both males? Still trying to get a handle on that. None of it mattered now. All concerns fled my mind, replaced by the singular need to survive. Cats dodged left and right through the corridors, yowling, barking, snapping, and growling, a fury of striped fur and gnashing teeth. Dressed in battle gear, several of them glared as if I was to blame for this attack. Maybe I was. "Chauncey! Azad!" Caesar screamed for his men who darted across the corridor in front of us. We caught up with his crew, and they fell in at Caesar's side, jogging behind him. More people affected by the insanity of my life. I should have done the universe a favor and walked out an airlock when I had the chance, and the inclination. Huffing and looking every which way with eyes wild in panic, Chauncey yelled at my back, "What the feckin' hell? The bloody walls are coming down around us!" Azad bellowed over the top of him, "The cats are growling like this is our fault. Who's attacking? The DC?" Caesar and I both nodded, and his men clamped their mouths shut to match pace with Rollick's swift jog. We were at a dead run. In the blur of cats swirling past, I noticed how often their furious looks turned our way to land on Caesar and his men. Running hard behind the prince, a sick idea occurred to me. I might soon face an impossible choice. My mate, the prince of the Allied Federation of the Gran, or my pirate lover, Caesar. With the peace treaty in shambles, humans had become the enemy of the Gran. How could I stand with the prince and keep Caesar at my side? Though I wasn't exactly human, not like Caesar and his men, most cats didn't see the difference. Apart from a handful of friends among the royal family, the Gran considered me a hairless bitch that didn't belong, a usurper in the royal house. If not for Rollick, I'd have been executed by the Traitors Guild, a bunch of xenophobic fat cats. I owed the prince my life, and I had technically pledged it to him, as his mate. I prayed to a universe that rarely listened. I prayed my loyalties would never be torn between Rollick and Caesar. The Emperor's guards met us at the ramp to the royal flagship and sealed the airlock portal behind us. We boarded a sleek silver craft, shaped like the long, tapered spear points of a Triton poised to thrust across the galaxy. The corridors matched the opulent, gorgeous finish of the ship's exterior. I hoped it was equally well equipped for war. We arrived at the bridge command center, where the Emperor stood growling and yipping at his officers. "Launch and call the fleet to my position. The colonies are defenseless." The Emperor and his officers turned to look at Rollick, me, and those behind me. All eyes settled on Caesar and his men. Awkward. Rollick chattered into his wristcom, requesting his armaments. He squeezed my shoulder reassuringly and left us standing beneath the scrutiny of his father, the Emperor, as he exited the room. The prince was suiting up for battle. The Emperor waved his hand in dismissal, and the cats, at his command, resumed their tasks as though we didn't exist. At over 3 meters tall, a head above his son, the Emperor towered over me. I could stand on my own shoulders and barely look him in the eye. The Emperor dropped to one knee, face to face, and his eyes pierced me with a searching intelligence. "Do you speak for Caesar? Will you certify he is not an enemy of the Gran?" I had always appreciated the Emperor's directness. Now, not so much. I almost opened my mouth to boast on my lover's behalf, but I stopped. I looked to Caesar, and snippets of his past words floated to mind. "I've done things I'm not proud of. I'm not the man you think I am. I'm not the man you want me to be." I addressed my lover face to face. "The Emperor asks if you are an enemy of the Gran. I don't believe so. But why the fuck are the DC attacking us, following on your heels?" Caesar had arrived 2 weeks ago, and the timing of this DC attack prompted inevitable conclusions. After standing on the chopping block, naked to all of catdom, facing execution, I had reached the point where I no longer feared anyone or anything. I transcended considerations of propriety. I didn't care if my accusations offended Caesar. I needed to hear the truth from his lips before I made a foolish promise to the Emperor. Caesar's sharp, dark eyes flicked to the massive cat knelt in front of me, then back to me. "I did not come here for war. I came to trade minerals for tech, and for you, Angel." I expected as much, yet he'd avoided my question. "Why and how have the DC followed you? Why are they attacking?" Caesar rubbed the stubble on his chin, giving a moment of thought before he answered. I hadn't allowed him time for proper grooming. In the past 3 days, I hardly let him leave my bed. Though he had other agendas and business to attend, Caesar was mine. As princess to Prince Rollick, this was my one indulgence. My wedding gift of sorts. Caesar. I had claimed him, and I intended to keep him. After another flicker of nervous tension across his face, Caesar finally spoke up. "When I stole the Shadow-class cruiser from the DC, I suspected they could track the ship. To a point. They detect when I'm in range of their sensors, but it's not precise. I've escaped them several times with the stealth mode." He ran his hands through his short salt and pepper hair. "I never imagined they could track me through all those jumps across the galaxy. We're thousands of light years from home, Angel. Shit, one reason I came this far was to get away from the DC. Fat chance a neutrino signal would reach our solar system in the next 100,000 years. If the DC tracked me, I have no idea how the fuck they did it." He dug deep into my eyes with his unflinching gaze. "I told you the DC had a fleet of Shadow-class warships. They've been planning something like this from the day they signed the treaty. As always, Angel, we're in the wrong place at the wrong time." The story of my life. His heart rate hadn't changed much, and his respiration remained steady. I felt his tension, but nothing more. I couldn't sense deceit in his eyes, face, or biorhythms. If Caesar lied to me, he was the smoothest liar I'd ever met. I translated Caesar's words into the growl-click-snapping language of the Gran and watched the Emperor's shrewd face. I thought I knew this cat, thought I could trust him, but the Gran and their alien reasoning had surprised me several times. I never made assumptions. The Emperor rose to his full height and watched Caesar while he spoke.
If he truly holds enmity for the Human Defense Council, will he join us in defense against them?
I almost spoke for Caesar and stopped myself. Instead, I translated for my lover. Caesar grinned, a sly, sharkish smile that always made me wonder what sort of man I'd fallen in love with.
I'll gladly join the fight. I've been fighting the DC for over a decade, but I need the word of the Emperor in return. I want assurances the Gran will not attack Earthside and Luna, or enslave human civilians. Promise me the Gran will not retaliate against human civilian populations.
I translated, and the Emperor's vertical slit amber eyes flicked back and forth between us.
Make no mistake, Angrel. The Gran respond to this threat with lethal force. I promise to try to curb our ferocity away from civilian locales. I am Emperor, not dictator. In war, the Gran are not known for civility and rationale.
I nodded and began to translate, but the Emperor interrupted me.
First, we must survive the day. Will you and your males join me to defend against the Defense Council treachery?
I translated to Caesar, and he sighed.
Let's hope he holds enough influence to keep them away from Earth. You have an in with the cats, Angel. Please, do what it takes to block them from using Earth as a slave labor depot. It's bad enough they have the worker drones.
I kissed him. I'll do what I can. No one listens to me apart from the Emperor's family. The Traitors Guild hates me. Caesar squeezed me tighter in his embrace and then looked up to the Emperor. I loved that I could be together with Caesar, despite the disintegration of everything else around us. My lover spoke with his voice of authority. I and mine will take up weapons and fight at your side. I passed on Caesar's pledge, and the Emperor clicked his approval. He strode past us, indicating to follow by the wave of his claws. I pulled Caesar and his men behind the Emperor, who led us to a room down the corridor, an armory. The cream-colored walls were covered in various pieces of metallic armor and weapon components. Rollick stood in full-body armor, adjusting his gauntlet for comfort. He squeezed his fist and lit a white-hot torch blade that wrapped the knuckles of his right hand. He grinned from ear to ear, but the Gran do not smile from pleasure. Rollick was prepared for war. The Emperor instructed one of the tech cats. Fit them with suitable armor and weapons. The cat blinked, stunned. He looked at me like I'd suddenly grown a cock and balls from my chest. The Emperor growled, and the tech blinked again and looked to his Emperor. Sire, they are too small. The Emperor flicked his claws in dismissal as he clicked at the tech. Princess Angrel and her entourage require your special talents. Make armor and gauntlets to fit, customized. Apparently, Caesar and his men had been adopted as my entourage. I couldn't help but grin like an idiot at the ridiculousness of Gran logic. The tech leaned in closer to the Emperor with a whiny growl. Sire, she's female. I watched the end of the Emperor's patience unraveling before me. He snarled. With proper armor and weapons, she could best most warriors. The tech shivered in disgust and nodded. He grabbed a small ball from the table in front of him and threw it in the air. Defying the artificial gravity of the Emperor's flagship, the ball floated towards me. It emitted a pink light, which scanned me and Caesar, Azad and Chansey from top to bottom. The scan results popped up on a holovid display, and the tech mewled as various pieces of metal floated off the wall to his waiting hands. He whined complaints under his breath as he fitted metallic pieces that assembled themselves. Chansey snorted. "You're not cramming me into metal underpants? No, thank you." Azad and Caesar snickered. I wrinkled my nose at Chansey. "If you don't mind having your balls burnt off, makes no difference to me. Gran armor is highly effective against plasma rifles." Chansey reached between his legs and felt himself with a worried look. "If you're wearing one of those cutting torches, I guess I need some protection." I would never live down the fact that I'd castrated Captain Cronin of the Traders Guild, my former owner. I'd been defending myself and the prince, but these damn males couldn't see past my choice of attack targets. The cat approached me and assembled little bits of metal, starting at my feet and working up my legs. Without pause or warning, he reached up the loose, see-through fabric of my skirt and wrapped my delicate parts in metal pieces. My pussy was officially armored. The men cordially looked away as the cat tech felt his way up my body, attaching various pieces of armor that locked together with magnetic nanotech. No idea what most of it did, but it was light and relatively comfortable. Probably titanium and platinum blended with who knows what else. Back when I wore a slave collar around my neck, Caesar and Azad tried to identify the blended alloys. Some of the metal was an unknown composition. My golden bra came off, and I caught Chansey ogling an eyeful of my breasts as the tech felt me up with his rough claws. Attaching armor around my chest that connected to the over-the-shoulder pieces. Amazingly, the stuff fit like a glove, smoothly wrapping the contours of my slim torso. I'd been butt naked in front of these men before, but I still felt my face burn with embarrassment as I submitted to this uncomfortably intimate process. The Emperor watched with a keen eye as the tech worked his way to my left forearm.
"Fit her with an Imperial shield. The princess deserves every protection."
The cat did a double take on the Emperor, then nodded and reached for another metallic device on the wall. He attached it to my left forearm, a circular node that twisted and hummed. The Emperor squeezed his left fist and snapped his arm out.
"This activates your shield."
I mimicked him, and a bright meter-wide circular energy field popped up in front of me, seemingly tethered to my left wrist, centered on the glowing, humming node attached to my armor.
"Most Gran warriors are too proud to carry shields. They believe it reduces honor in combat. I believe the survivors enjoy the luxury of debating the honor of their combat."
I grinned at the Emperor's sly humor and the awesome shimmery shield emanating from my wrist. The Emperor flicked his arm back and opened his hand, then nodded for me to do the same. When I did, the motion deactivated my shield. Flick one way, the shield activated. The other way, deactivated. I could have some serious fun with this. The fidgety tech drew my attention as he wrapped my right forearm and hand with a svelte metallic gauntlet. I watched in fascination as the tech adjusted the gauntlet to a perfect fit. The gauntlets I'd used before were made for much larger hands, cat hands, not this one. The tech stepped away from me as he finished, and I squeezed my right fist closed. With the finger pressure buttons activated inside the gauntlet grip, a white-hot torch blade arced across the front of my fist. About 25 centimeters wide, a half-moon shape of brilliant, blazing energy sizzled with life at the end of my arm. I loved the grand battle gauntlet, especially this one, made for me. These blades cut through anything, even steel or cat balls. If that ain't the definition of dangerous! Chansey eyed my lit blade with trepidation. I'd never really got along with him. In our first meeting, I nearly cut his head off with one of these blades. He wasn't one to forgive and forget. I released my fist and the blade energy dissipated. I'll make you a deal, Chansey. Stay out of my way, and I'll let you keep all your man parts.